It is Tuesday. I was ranting, so I thought I'd come on here and rant. How about that? Um, so I was over on the anarchist boards. I get on Reddit. Reddit frustrates me to no end, honestly. I don't know why I'm still on there. And one thing that because I often say that I lean into anarchy. And I say I lean into it because I don't realistically feel that anarchy is a realistic, um, realistic concept in this day and age. I don't think that humanity is awake where we need them to be in order to be self-actualized, sovereign beings. Okay. I set timers for myself, and for like in 20-minute increments. I swear to God, I think that and like 5 minutes later, my alarm's going off. It's annoying. Anyway, what was I saying? That anarchy as a concept is a nice concept, but it's very utopic. I don't believe that humanity is in a place where we can actually reasonably, my cat, reasonably expect to be fully sovereign, internal monarchy beings, right? That we are going to be able to do self-rule. I don't believe that right now. It would be nice. It would be nice to be able to do that or to see that, but I don't believe that it is realistic at this time. That it requires a lot of effort on our part, and I just don't believe that we have it, honestly. We need a lot more work, and a lot of people are not doing the work. Okay. I think a lot of people just really aren't really getting it. But I put forth on one of the anarchist subreddits an earnest question. Of course, it went to the moderators. I doubt if it'll even be posted because Reddit is such an overly moderated, censored site. It's just ridiculous. You can ask something in good faith and they'll just deny it because of some arcane rule that they've established, right? And I'm like, I'm literally trying to have a conversation with somebody. I'm literally trying to pick someone else's brain, and you're sitting there and you're censoring and denying my post to be asked, right? But this is what I asked. And it was on the Debate Anarchy site. I was asking folks who are self-described anarchists if what their thoughts were about the literal dismantling of the United States government, which is, of course, occurring right now. Now, some may argue that the United States government isn't, in fact, being literally dismantled, but it is. For all intents and purposes, it is. This is unprecedented, the level at which government agencies are being shut down, erased, federal funding being just halted, like on a scale that we've never seen. This isn't just rolling back funding for this or cutting a little bit of funding for this agency over here. We're talking about the halting of large swaths of the United States government. I mean, across the board, including Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, the nuclear, our nuclear arsenal, military spending, which, yeah, I've been saying for decades, yes, the military spending in the United States needs to be halved. I think a lot of people would like to have seen that. So we'll see how that all rolls out, right? Especially since there's there is conflicting rhetoric over rebuilding of Gaza, right? And our continuing selling of weapons to certain states, etc. And then, DEI, the whole nine. Bear with. Okay. Sorry about that. Again, I have these timers that are going off. Anyway, what was I saying? I've got to stop setting timers, I guess, on my phone. Anyway, but basically, for all intents and purposes, the United States government is being dismantled as we have known it, right? Now, many on the right are cheering this. They are totally 100% in support of dismantling the entire United States government. Many years ago, probably before a lot of people were born, there was a guy named Norquist. What was his first name? I think it was Norquist. I should look that up. Hold on. I'm going to go in Norquist, government, and Grover Norquist. Yeah, okay. So there was a guy, his name was Grover Norquist. I couldn't remember his first name. And he was a major anti-tax advocate. And he always talked about, I think it was him, of having the government spending and the government be contained in the size of a thimble. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me. That he wanted to get government spending down into a thimble, right? Like, I think that was him, I think, that said that. Anyway, but we have, for the first time in my history of existence, the massive dismantling of the United States government as we know it. And like I said, the right generally is cheering it on, or they are being massively silent. We all know that they don't like spending. They don't want to spend it on social services. Military, they're probably a little bit more like, eh. Am I English? What do you think? Rachel, what do you think? I'm speaking English. Anyway, I'm going to continue because I don't want to be interrupted with my thoughts. But anyway. And so I asked this anarchist group, what are your thoughts? Here we are. This is the closest we have gotten to dismantling one of the largest governments in history, right? Like just dismantling it. And the threats to the cuts that are going on right now are substantial. I mean, practically probably like by the third day of Trump's presidency, the Medicaid portals in the states, they couldn't get into these Medicaid portals, which pay for various services, right? I work for a mental health agency whose clientele are primarily Medicaid clients. That's who funds us. We accept Medicaid clients. So my job is directly related to whether or not when a client comes in, they can, number one, get services, mental health services, and can we get paid for said mental services, which pays for our agency's existence. So yeah, I'm not trying to be selfish, but it does directly affect me and my job and how we run. We're a nonprofit mental health agency. We've been around for 100 years plus. We do good work. We help people with substance use. We help the elderly. We help lower income people, you name it. And so the work that we do is really critical and pivotal to helping people. And you may disagree with the government. Maybe you think that a church should do all this, which is ridiculous. But, what is this all supposed to go to the private sector? You think that, a private sector... Okay, I'm going to stop here for 1 second. Rachel, I would kindly ask you to go away, troll. I'm not going to show you around my house. You are a troll. Anyway, And I should figure out a way how to ban you, because that's just ridiculous. I am. Anyway, I figured out how to do that. I'm like, I'm going to figure out, I may actually invite people who are to be moderators, because I'm not going to tolerate random, if you're not interested in listening, and providing good faith discussions, I don't want to hear from you. I'm sorry. I'm done. Anyway, we have this experiment going on right now. And I don't know, you can say what you want. Has there been bloated waste? Of course there has been. I oppose that. I don't know why the right keeps putting up these straw man arguments implying that somehow leftists or people on the left or liberals don't care about waste and fraud and graft and greed and all this other kind of stuff. Okay. Because we do. I don't want waste. I mean, if one piece of paper in the United States government requires 20 people to put their hands on it, that is waste. That's inefficient. It's stupid. I agree. Can we update systems? Certainly. Can we update systems to where we can cut some federal jobs? Is that a reasonable debate? Sure. I'm open to that. But what is going on right now is not the way to do any of this. I understand that, what we really are having is we are really having a coup. Okay? We are really having a coup, because the people that are doing this are not qualified to be doing this. You've got 19 and 20-year-olds rooting around in sensitive government systems that do not have the security clearances. Okay? And so what are they doing? And to sit there and just say, well, we're just going to flip a switch and turn off all the funding. Voila, our job is done. No, this isn't how audits are done. If they sincerely wanted to have an audit, you would get an accountant, right? You're not going to get a programmer. People have said this, right? And it's like, what are they doing? I mean, this is why people are concerned. So there's been this straw man argument from the right stating that the left really doesn't care, and like, oh, yeah, let's just spend all this money on social programs. And yet we really haven't had a serious, mature adult debate about these things, because everybody's argument is in bad faith. Like, we're just trying to provoke the other side, or put up straw man arguments, or red herrings, or whatever it is. And we're not really listening to each other and saying, is this a reasonable thing that we can both agree on that needs to change? And I think that there are a lot of areas in which both the left and the right can come together and agree. But the powers that be, because the powers that be have the agenda, want to keep us divided. They want to keep us separated, divided, harping at each other, not really listening to each other. And this goes on in our society at large, right? They put a wedge between men and women, blacks and whites, gays and straights. I mean, the whole 9 yards, right? Like, we know this. And if you don't know it, learn about it. Okay? Instead of actually saying, hey, well, I'm actually for that. Oh, you are too? Wow. Well, let's figure out a way that we can roll this back, or maybe make this more efficient. If governmental computer systems need to be upgraded, which I am sure they do, then by all means. But what they are doing right now is not the way to do it. And it's alarming, because it will harm people. It already is harming people. People have already been fired, and you can say, well, I don't really care about that. I mean, maybe you feel you don't understand or care that a forest ranger whose job it was to identify forest fires just got fired, or to make sure that there's safety in our national forests. Maybe you don't think that national forests should even exist. I do, because I think that they provide a positive good for people. But maybe you think that's a waste. The government shouldn't be involved in this. Let's privatize all our forests. Let's, drill baby drill or whatever, which I think is completely irresponsible. I mean, I believe the whole ecosystem and environment issues is a completely massive other conversation we need to be having. I won't get into that. But I don't think that it's responsible to say, oh, let's close down all our national forests and national parks and just put drilling and privatize them and just put them up for the for the highest bidder. I don't believe that. And if you do, you're really irresponsible and stupid. Sorry, but you are. Um, you know, but how all this is rolling out. So I asked this again. I think I'm probably going to be censored and they will not post it, unfortunately. And I really sincerely want to hear from people who are libertarian, who are anarchists. And again, like I said, I lean into anarchy. I lean into anarchy as a theory, but how that ends up happening, just doing an abrupt halt to federal payment systems, you affect elderly people who rely on Social Security payment. You can say, well, I don't believe in Social Security. I think it's a Ponzi scheme. Well, okay, fine. You think it's a Ponzi scheme. What is your solution to shift to something else? Do you just think, oh, let's just stop the payments and who cares? Who cares? I mean, I understand why people may think it's a Ponzi scheme because, in fact, I have been paying into Social Security and under the auspices that when it comes time for me to retire, that I will be able to get that money because people younger than me will have been paying into it too, and that they will support me. I understand that. And maybe it's not the most effective way to manage. We lost pensions in this country. We have this 401k thing, which was only supposed to be a supplemental to a pension. But all these corporations got rid of pensions. And I don't even know what a pension was. Like, I always heard about pensions, but I'm Gen X. And I was at a financial seminar last night, and they were talking about a specific product, about financial stuff. And I was talking to the gentleman next to me who was in his 70s, and I think he sounded a little liberal. But, he said that, oh, he was living off of his pension because there are some companies that had pensions, but, he was grandfathered in, so he has a pension. And he gets money from that pension, which I think he said was like $1,800 a month, right? And I've never known. I think like when I started working at the agency I work at, they had pensions, but they rolled those pensions into 401ks. And I have no money in my 401k. Maybe it's because I didn't manage it well. But again, it's kind of like there's just a lot of craziness that is going on right now in our financial sector. And I know that people go, well, too bad. If people are out in the streets, I mean, people are complaining that people are homeless right now. Drug addicts, mental health people. You think that homelessness is bad now? Let's talk again in a year. Let's talk again in a year. The lack of care and compassion and empathy that exists in our society is coming to fruition like I have never seen it. It's people literally just say, I don't care. I had a family member that stated to me, you need to stop being so worried about all this political stuff. You need to just stop it. Like you're too into all this political stuff, and you need to find things to make you happy, and you need to work on your happiness instead of worrying about the politics and everything. And I'm like, the politics, this isn't just debating tax policy like it was in the 80s or whatever. I mean, this is literally the dismantling of the United States government. I mean, the fact that they fired practically everybody in the nuclear sector, right? The federal workers that oversaw our nuclear weapons and nuclear waste sites, etc., they fired them. And they go, oh, wow, and it's like a skeletal crew. And they realize, oh, I guess we do need more people to do this and to manage these things. But they had gotten rid of all of their information and data and emails, so they couldn't really easily scramble back and go, hey, actually, we were sorry, you're not fired. I mean, this is the kind of knee-jerk bad behavior. You think you're doing good, yay, wonderful, let's rip that Band-Aid off, let's get all this stuff done, and you're not really thinking about the implications of ripping that Band-Aid off when you don't have any more bandages, right? You don't. And people really are stupid, and they just think, great, And I always caution people. I mean, it may sound sexy. It may be sexy to go and talk about revolution and viva la revolution, and, but people die in revolutions. People get injured, and I know that you think, well, that's, a few people getting injured or killed, but our cause is great, da 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 da. Be very careful. I mean, I don't know. I just, and so I'm sincerely interested, but, it seems like a lot of people on the right who are Trump supporters or are sticking their heads in the sand just really don't care. Either it's really overwhelming, and I'm interested in people's psychology right now, like what is going on in their heads, like the cognitive dissonance, who hurt you? Who hurt you? Because I look back on some people that I know fairly decently, because I've known them for decades, and I can go, I'm wondering if it's because you were traumatized. I know that sounds really gobbledygook, but it's just like, a lot of this, I think, is people feeling they got ripped off somehow in their life. And fuck everybody else. And that's disturbing, and it's sad, And so when people say that I need to work on I've worked on my mental health. Have you? Because, I mean, I'm willing to have rational conversations with people about things, but I'm very disturbed by the level at which we're handling things right now. Anyway, I'm kind of getting off topic, but going back again to the anarchist thing, if you are an anarchist, honestly, what do you think about this? What do you think about all this stuff just being broken down, and that the United States government, I mean, number one, the United States government is being dismantled, but it's not totally being dismantled. It is going to be dismantled enough to allow for this transition of power to overtake. And I had talked about looking into dark enlightenment ideas, and Curtis Yarvin, who has proposed that the United States government be ruled by a monarch, tech monarch, basically. So they believe that capitalism and democracy are incompatible, and so let's just get rid of the democracy because it just makes everything really messy. And that we should just, I mean, it's like this extreme libertarian thought, like whatever, oh, well, I guess it wouldn't be a libertarian thought, but, that this, well, we'll just put our person in, we'll just put our concept of government monarchy in, because democracy is too messy. Like voting, people's rights, like who cares about that? You know, that we need to have the father figure monarch to oversee it. And it'll be a tech monarch because they've got all the techie stuff. They know all the techie stuff that will make life run efficiently or whatever they believe. And that, we can get rid of all this messy feelings about voting and rights and all this other kind of stuff. Um, and that's what they believe in a nutshell. I mean, that's, you know. So anyway, I got to get going to go to work, but I just wanted to get on here. So if you're an anarchist, I would be interested in hearing what you think about how things are going. Do you think it's good, bad? Do you think that it's going to get us to a state of true anarchy in our society? Do you really think that people are sovereign enough and aware and awake enough to be able to exist in a world where the government isn't taking care of them anymore? I would be interested to see your thoughts on that. So, and also about this concept of dark enlightenment, which is the exact opposite of anarchy. And we want to let's go back to monarchy. Let's go back to a king. Let's go back to, this over rulership over the people because they're too stupid to basically, and it's too messy to deal with this. Anyway. All right. Well, I hope you have a great Tuesday. Hang in there. All right. Thanks a lot for listening. And please subscribe. Please subscribe. Thanks.